Hello everyone, welcome to my presentation and analysis of a decade of gun violence in America. The data was collected from CDC Wonder, which stands for Wide Range Epidemiologic Research, an easy to use system that gives public access to the CDC's information resources for free. I wanted to examine national gun violence trends and see difference in trends based on the demographic data and the intent of the gun violence incidents. So to perform these actions and create visualizations, I utilize power pivot tables, pivot charts, as well as Power View in Excel. And I will demonstrate how I did all those things soon. So, for example, on this first page right here, I've created a map of the United States with the size of the circles that are representing the number of deaths that have taken place due to gun violence in those states over the 10 years. Now, we can see that California, Texas, and Florida have had the most deaths since they have the largest circles. This can be easily created by Power View. So this here is the all intents of US data, and it has data for all of the states for all of the deaths that took place between 2008 and 2018. So to create the Power View map, we go to Insert, Power View. Now create a Power View sheet. Normally I would click OK, but since I've already created the sheet, I'm just going to cancel. Now it would have brought us to a page like this, but it would have been empty. And on the right side here, we would have been able to select our data. So I selected the deaths and the state for the data, and I set the sum of the deaths as the size of the circle and the location as the state. Now while you have the data selected, you can go to Design and then click Map. And then when you do that, it will create a map such as this for you very seamlessly. Now I also created this small dashboard right here to show which states had the highest average age-adjusted gun death rates and which races were affected by gun homicide the most. Now, for both of these analyses, I used age-adjusted death rate, which is the deaths that take place for the normalized population of a group per 100,000 of that group. So, on the left here, we can see that Alaska had the highest number of age-adjusted death rates at 22, wait, no. At 20.25 deaths per 100,000 over every year over 10 years. Now, I can also, using slicers, select specific data sets or specific states to zone in on data and make comparisons. For example, if I wanted to compare Alaska and California's death rates, I can do that in this manner by selecting, using these slicers, the state of Alaska and California, or if I wanted to select a specific year, I could do that. And similarly on this side, I can do it as well using the slicers presented on the right. And I'll just go over how to create these right now. So to create these charts of all of the states, I used the all intents data, and I created a pivot chart and pivot table by clicking on Insert, selecting the data, clicking Pivot Table, and then select Table and Range. My table and range has already been selected, and clicking New Worksheet. Now, I'm not going to click OK because I already have it made, but if I did, it would take me here. The all intent pivot table. Now, as you can see, I've already created the charts and visualization for this, but when you would have been on the screen the first time, you would have gone on here where the empty pivot table would have been, and on the right side, you would select the data that you want for this. So in my case, I wanted the state data, the year data, and the age-adjusted rate data. And I wanted year to be in my filters, I wanted state to be in my rows, and the average age-adjusted rate in my values. Now, this would have given me this table, but not this chart on the right. So to get this chart, after I had already gotten this table, I would go to Insert, Recommended Charts, and then click column chart, or I mean bar chart, sorry, and hit OK, and it would have visualized this chart for me. Now, as for the slicers, we can click Insert Slicer by going on the Analyze tab and clicking here, and then we can select what slicers we want for our data, and I had state and then year selected for this chart. So very similar to what I'm doing here, I did for the homicide by race, and this data is collected from this table, which I also got from CDC Wonder, and I did similar steps by selecting the data, clicking pivot table, then hitting OK. It would have brought me to this page with an empty table over here, and I selected the fields of race, year, and age adjusted rate for that. I moved the year to my rows, the race to the columns, and the values to the average adjusted rate to the values. Now to get this chart, I went to Insert, Recommended Charts, and then I picked Line Chart, and it gave me this chart. So to also get the slicers for this, I went once again to Analyze, and then Insert Slicer, and then selected State, Race, and Year. And it gave me this wonderful chart. Now, we can see from the chart, we can very easily see from this chart the differences between the average or the age-adjusted death rate due to gun homicide for different races, and now we can see how, the different races have been affected by it. For example, 20 black people per 100,000 in 2017 were killed due to gun homicide compared to only 2 white people in 2017 out of 100,000 getting killed due to gun homicide, and this is just a powerful tool for quick analysis. Next, I wanted to visualize gun suicides by the different races based on their age groups. To do this, I had this data already, and I select it, and I click Insert, and go to Power View. Click Power View, it gives me the screen prompt, and I select Create a Power View sheet and hit OK, but since I already have mine made, I'm going to hit Cancel. And it brings me to a new sheet like this, where I select my data on the right side as the sum of deaths, which is my value, the age group, which I will be using as my axis, and the sex, which I use as my legend. Now to get this in this format, I had to go to Design, and then click Column Chart, and it will present me with these options for placement. I select Tile by Race, because it lets me see the group data based on races in a very easy format, so I can just click the different races here, and then I can see how the data changes for the specific race. And then we can very easily analyze that in minorities, mostly young males were committing suicide, while in the white group demographic, older males were most likely to commit suicide. Lastly, I wanted to see how the different races were affected by gun homicide due to legal intervention, and that would be defined as homicides that have occurred due to a law enforcement shootout or shooting, and what the rates for that's occurring for that was looking like. So I had the data, so I created a Power View sheet for it. So I did Insert, Power View. I normally would have hit OK, but I'm canceling since I have it, and it would have brought me to a page like this, where on the right, I can select the data that I wanted, and I wanted the age-adjusted death rates, the sex, and the year of the data. Now, first, I chose the style that I wanted to visualize this data, and I click here on Design, Other Chart, and then Line Chart, which isn't highlighted right now because I have one already. So I put the average adjusted death rate and the values, the year on the axis, and the sex in the legend to split the data in this manner. And then once again, I tile by race. so I can flip through these charts to easily see the differences for different races. So that will be all for my presentation, and I hope it was informative. Thank you.